Nova Scotia's EMO asked to use the hall as a registration centre for residents of Portapique who had fled their homes. An RCMP officer was posted here in a cruiser. By this time, police were on the hunt for the shooter, who they knew was impersonating a police officer. At 10:30 a.m., 2 RCMP officers fired multiple shots outside the hall. Sources have told CTV News the officers thought they were firing at the suspect when it was in fact a fellow Mountie.
This program is brought to you in part by...
Why don't you get yourself some turned-down collars, Poirot? They're much more the thing, you know.
The thing, Hastings? Do you think Poirot concerns himself with mere thingness?
No, I see.
The turned-down collar is the first symptom of decay, of the great terror.
I just know if people keep pushing, I can't, first of all, thank enough all of the hard work. There's 3 fellow YouTubers who are working very, 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 very hard with one. Rage in the Cage, Steve LTT, and just my stupidest plug in them. But they are fantastic, really been around there here. And stepping up to the plate, there's a certain amount of risk, things, and also likewise, all the people are volunteering information and time, which, like I said, over on the Discord or sending anonymous information, it is fantastic.
Evening, everybody. Well, I don't know. I always do things and have plans and they never pan out. I don't know if anybody else is like that. Glenn, Sis, Steve, Lynn and Kelly and whoever else is watching. We're going to watch the live stream together. I just finished an interview with Sharon, and so I'm going to play that afterwards. Yeah, those of you who want to stick around, just kind of talking about what was asked in the interview, and we're going to watch then what comes out, and then I think we'll have a follow-up with Sharon, possibly with Leon. Anyways, better get on with the program. Oh no.
They heard it was possible shooting. So I didn't think anything of it at first. And then I heard that it was on Portapique Beach Road.
Portapique Beach Road is just around the corner from where Tyler Blair's father, Greg, lived, with his wife, Jamie, and 2 younger sons. Their neighbor was a man named Gabriel Wortman. Adventurous by profession to his neighbors in Portapique, Wortman was an eccentric, known to have guns and a temper. That night, he was on a rampage.
I believe my father was outside at the time when Gabriel came in. And I think a few words were said, and they said they heard my dad yell, "What the F are you doing with a gun?" And then he shot my father. That's when Jamie ran back into the door and got them and pushed them down the hallway. And they all ran down into their bedroom. And my 2 little brothers hid behind the bed. And Jamie put her back up against the interior door of their bedroom. And he just shot right through it.
Police would later tell Tyler his parents were the first to die that night. His stepmom was shot while on the line to 911.
Jamie, she's like a mother to me for almost 20 years. One of the best people you ever meet. They're great people, very hard workers. My father's worked very hard his whole life, and he finally just became mortgage-free, debt-free. He was about to start living life, I want to say, but I got cut short.
Having watched their mother die, the boys aged 10 and 12 hid in a closet. until they realized the gunman was trying to set the house on fire.
They could smell the smoke, but it was gun smoke at that point. And then my little brother ran out and seen that he pulled some logs out of the fire, scattered them around on the floor, and then turned the propane range on.
They knew they had to run, and they did. Through the woods to the next nearest house, which belonged to Lisa McCulley, a teacher with 2 children of her own.
I know you belong to somebody new.
She was such a vibrant expression of life. Her humor and her musicality and how she just soaked up every moment of life. She was fearless. And she was your classic mama bear. She was so protective of everyone. And she had gone out to see these flames that were higher than the tree line, and went out because she saw an RCMP officer, went out to probably ask, should we evacuate? What the heck is going on? And she was shot.
We now know that on April 18th and 19th, the gunman wore parts of an authentic RCMP uniform, including a shirt and pants with a yellow stripe.
In the days that followed, the RCMP seemed as dumbfounded as everyone else. Officers arrived in Portapique to chaos, it says.
So there's a structure fire. There's a person down there with a gun. They're still looking for him.
And immediately, as per RCMP policy, started searching for the gunman. What they found were bodies.
It's very vague what's going on down there, but there is for sure multiple patients down there.
The Blairs, Lisa McCulley. Eventually, 10 more would be found. Corey Ellison, John Zoll and Joanne Thomas, Don and Frank Galutchin, Joy and Peter Bond, Emily Tuck, and her parents, Aaron and Jolene.
Do you know if they've cut the ceiling? No, not for sure. They don't know if they've caught him. I don't know.
At 11:32 Saturday night, RCMP issued their first public warning, a tweet. No mention of fires or people being shot, simply a firearms complaint and a warning to those in Portapique to stay inside. "50 kilometers away from Portapique, north of the town of Truro, Nick Beaton and his wife Kristen had also seen posts on Facebook.
We talked about it and went to bed. I stayed up a little later kind of watching what was going on. It just went quiet.
Kristen was a community health care worker who often traveled to places like Portapique. But that night, there was no sense of impending danger.
You know, I was thinking of the people that live there, but there was no real concern, like it wasn't next door by any means, and there's a lot of communities between us and Portapique.
For the family of a nurse, though, a colleague of Kristen's, there was concern. Heather O'Brien was a longtime friend of the Blairs from Portapique. Her daughter, Darcy, was the first to hear the terrible news.
My husband came out and woke me up at 5:30 in the morning on the 19th. At that point, we weren't sure what had happened, and called my mom. And I said, Jamie and Greg are dead. I'm not sure what's going on.
Internal police bulletins show that overnight, the RCMP identified Wortman as a possible suspect. But it wasn't until dawn, they say, that a witness emerged to confirm their suspicions.
I heard a banging at my door. I peeked around. It's Gabriel Wortman's girlfriend. I went to the door, opened the door, pulled her inside, slammed the door, and relocked it.
She told him she'd been hiding in the woods all night. She'd later tell police Wortman had beaten and restrained her.
She's just freaking out, bouncing around the floor, and said, Gabriel lost his mind. I said, no shit, he burned his own house down. And she's just panicking. I put her in the bathroom. I called 911.
Our officers responded, and it was at that time that through that significant key witness, we confirmed more details about Gabriel Wortman. This included the fact that he was in possession of a fully marked and equipped replica RCMP vehicle and was wearing a police uniform.
But where was that vehicle? And where was Wortman?
More than 12 hours after our initial arrival in the Portapique area, that we began receiving a second series of 911 calls. That was in an area which was more than 60 kilometers away from the Portapique area.
That area is the Wentworth Valley, 45 minutes by car. The calls were coming from another collection of country homes and cottages on Hunter Road.
And my neighbor said, texted and said, did anybody hear shots early this morning? And I said, I didn't hear any shots this morning, but I said, I can hear something now. Then all of a sudden there was a big explosion. And I'm like, oh my God, like, what did you hear that? What's going on? And they texted back and they said, oh my God, don't go anywhere. There's a crazy man on the road.
Security cameras would record what looked like an RCMP cruiser on Hunter Road at 6:30 that morning, near the home of Alana Jenkins and Sean McLeod. When the car left 3 hours later, they would be dead. I mean, do you have any idea why he would have targeted them?
Maybe because they were happy. Maybe he was jealous, envied them because they had a life that he didn't have. I really don't know. That's the only reasoning that I could come up with.
Wortman knew Jenkins and McLeod. They were correctional officers, father and stepmother to two girls, 18-year-old Amelia.
Everything I know my dad taught me, I wouldn't be who I am without him. Like, I grew up going fishing, hunting. Like, he taught me everything. Like, they were really caring, selfless, loving, fun. Their house was always welcoming to everybody, so.
That house, too, was set ablaze. A neighbor, Tom Bagley, came to investigate and was also killed. A few minutes later, so was Lillian Campbell, out for a morning walk. Hunter Road in Wentworth is about 40 kilometers from the town of DeBert. On Sunday morning, Kristen Beaton was getting ready to head that way for work.
She was going to work early in the morning, 6, 7, whatever time it was. And she came in and she gave me a big kiss and a big hug. And she said, babe, you're the best. And little did I know. Little did I know that would be the last one I'd have, last kiss I'd have.
Even from the road, Kristen was keeping an eye on Facebook. It was just before 10 that she called Nick to say someone had reposted a new RCMP tweet identifying Gabriel Wortman as the Portapique suspect.
And I remember writing it down on a piece of paper, and I was talking, I just said, okay, I'm gonna go and see if he has Facebook to find his picture to send it to you, just in case you see him, to avoid him or what have you, like thinking that that it was like an isolated incident, that him and family got into it or, whatever, not thinking that he's out targeting innocent people. And I sent her the picture of him, and it was the last thing she read.
By now, Heather O'Brien was on the road too, visiting her children, whom she knew would be upset by what had happened to the Blairs.
We have a group chat with all my brothers and sisters, and she texted and said, put in your coffee orders, I'll come with coffee. And she knew we were all kind of a little bit on edge about what was happening in Portapique, so she just, I think more than anything, she just kind of wanted to see us, make sure everybody was okay.
Heather O'Brien and Kristen Beaton would die on the same rural road, 300 meters apart.
She sent us a text message at 9:59 that said the RCMP, the words were RCMP and shots fired into Bert. I think she happened to be right there when Kristen Beaton was killed. That he thought that maybe she witnessed it or she saw too much, heard too much. She was just in the wrong place at the wrong time.
So 12 hours after it started, the death toll was 19, and the gunman, dressed as a cop, wasn't finished yet. From DeBert to an area called Shubenacadie, it's another 50-kilometer drive. Once again, security cameras captured Wortman along the way, calmly stopping to remove his jacket before carrying on. By now, the RCMP was getting reports of sightings. Having failed to set up barricades overnight, it started dispatching officers to set up roadblocks. Constables Chad Morrison and Heidi Stevenson were traveling to meet each other.
Both were communicating on their police radios with each other. What appeared to be a marked police vehicle then approached Constable Morrison. Constable Morrison thought that the vehicle was Constable Stevenson. The approaching police vehicle was actually driven by the gunman. The gunman pulled up beside Constable Morrison and immediately opened fire.
Morrison would survive the shooting. A few minutes later, Stevenson would not. After crashing into her cruiser, Wortman killed her and stole her service pistol before turning on Joey Weber, who had stopped to help. He then set all the cars on fire.
We're just overhead of vehicle fire at the exit on Highway 2. It actually looks like might be a police car involved. There's other police vehicles there.
We just killed real concrete in front of us. Oh my God. Oh God.
The gunman's last victim was Gina Goulet, a fellow denturist who happened to live nearby. After killing her, Wortman stole her car, traveled another 21 kilometers before running out of gas. It was only then, and only because an RCMP tactical unit had also stopped for gas, that the killing spree was finally brought to an end.
While he's at the gas pumps, one of our tactical resources came to the gas station to refuel the vehicle. When the officer exited the vehicle, there was an encounter, and the gunman was shot and killed by police.
Roger, we have reports of the suspect down at the Enfield Big Stop.
$11:26 a.m., 13 hours, 22 innocent people dead. A gunman who had traveled across the province, close to 200 kilometers in all, undetected and unstopped. How had it happened? When we come back.
You think that's how he got out?
It's how he got out. I know it's how he got out.
Times have changed since you last bought a truck. During the Ford Trade and Upgrade event on until November 30th, get 0% financing. Plus, eligible customers get a $2,500 trade-in.
Oh, my apologies. Me. What do you guys think so far?
Every time you do this,
You're muted. You're muted. Didn't show the bum guy. No, bum guy is missing. Seems to be some details missing. I'll be interested to hear what they've got there for Sharon coming up. I was hoping to get something with Leon too, but we can maybe do that after.
and we're building it today. What do I want to be? I want to be a dreamer. I want to be curious.
I'm noticing something, two commonalities between everything that I've heard and this barrage, plethora of media attention that this story is seemingly getting now, sadly. Hopefully, at least this opens some eyes, so that will be good. Yes, many thanks to everybody for all this. You know, like seriously, I think you guys can take credit for this. It's you guys that keep pushing it. And thank you for, you know, supporting the channel and getting more eyes on it. I really appreciate the shares and stuff like that, the likes or whatever. Helps. Is this on TV? It is. Master the mute button. Yeah. It is down in Nova Scotia live right now. So thought what more appropriate way to play it than live.
Life goes by so fast, it's tough
We're
to know where you're going.
still doing ads,
So why not let
trying
an
to
agent
sell something.
speak with us about your life, home, and auto insurance. And let's focus on you.
Yes, I noticed that as well.
Seven months later, the grieving continues for the 22 Nova Scotians who were killed. Compounding the grief are the questions. What did the RCMP know? What did they do to try and stop the killer? Could any of the victims have been spared?
It all happened so fast that I don't believe anyone could have saved Lisa. I think that what could have saved Lisa is to go back 10 years.
In 2002, Gabriel Wortman was convicted of assault. In 2010, he was investigated for threatening his parents. His father says he told police Wortman had guns. In 2011, there was another tip. Municipal police in the town of Truro were told Wortman kept most of his guns at his cottage in Portapique. He was starting to have mental issues, according to the tipster, telling people he wanted to kill a cop.
So that's a community safety issue and an officer safety issue. So those are taken very seriously. That's why our officer did record it for the bulletin to be shared with all police agencies in the province.
But Truro police didn't have jurisdiction over Portapique. The RCMP did. An officer was sent to visit Wortman, the RCMP says, but took no further action. It won't say what it did 2 years later when it got yet another complaint about Gabriel Wortman and guns.
When we first met him, it was a little sketchy. He found out that we were military, and he showed myself and my husband all the illegal weapons that he had. And then he asked us if we could get him some weapons and some bullets and stuff. And I went, and my husband, both of us said, no, it's illegal. You can't do that.
Forbes reported the encounter to the RCMP, as well as information that Wortman was abusing his partner. Did they tell you that they were going to investigate?
They said, they didn't say that they were going to investigate. They said they're going to check on it. But they said also that there's probably nothing that we can do. Like I didn't have actual proof that the weapons were there, like pictures or whatever.
But you had the knowledge.
Yeah.
You had what you
Yeah.
saw. And would that not have been enough for them to go and knock on the door and
I would have thought.
check it out?
Yep.
Nova Scotians have lots of questions about what happened, why it happened, what things were done, and what wasn't. You can be assured that we have those same questions, and we'll be seeking answers through our investigation.
In 7 months, the RCMP has offered few answers. Most of what is known has come from the media, taking the RCMP to court to force disclosures, as well as from the victims' families who've been conducting their own investigation.
It seems to me that the RCMP are not wanting the entire story to come out about how the response to this tragedy took place.
Why would they not want it to come out?
Well, to be frank, it seems to be quite embarrassing.
Take the RCMP's initial response. It still won't say exactly how many officers were dispatched to Portapique that night or when reinforcements arrived. But it insists the first responders were heroes immediately going after the threat.
As dictated by their training, their objective was to locate and to stop that threat. This is exactly what those RCMP first responders were working towards.
But a witness we've talked to saw no evidence of that, not until the emergency response team arrived from Halifax, which he says was more than 2 hours later. The RCMP's initial response consisted of 3 police cars, according to witnesses, parked at the entrance to Portapique.
My understanding is during that time it was more of a secure the scene operation rather than a boots on the ground. Let's neutralize the gunman.
And it could have saved some more lives.
That's certainly how it looked to others who were there too.
I hid in the woods for about 4 hours, staring up the sky, freezing to death, looking for red flashing lights that never came. So hours. People were in there burning to death and dying. It took hours for a response. That's not right. That's not right at all.
And remember those 2 young boys who were there when the gunman killed their parents.
They kept clear minds and kept themselves safe. That's when they booked it through the woods and over to the neighbor's house, and they ran inside with Lisa McCulley's 2 young kids.
Together, the children hid in the basement and called 911.
I think they just talked to them the whole time, keeping them calm. They gave them that safe word to not come out until they hear somebody come in and say that word.
But that would take an awfully long time. Again, more than 2 hours.
It should take 2 hours to go in and get 4 young kids out of an area, some madman's running around with a gun.
Yeah. Do you know why they didn't? The McCulley family says RCMP told them it knew the children were there and had stationed as many as 6 officers around the house to protect them. But Tyler Blair has never been told that, and he doesn't believe it.
All right, that's all fine, but why wouldn't they have one more to go in?
Yeah. From what you understand, do you think that there were police that were stationed around the house?
I highly doubt it.
You doubt it?
Yeah.
Why?
The RCMP have been caught in many lies already. I don't know. It's hard for me to believe a word that comes out of their mouth.
Whatever was or wasn't happening on the ground, the RCMP was busy overnight tracking vehicles associated with Gabriel Wortman, including former police cars. By dawn, when all 3 had been accounted for, the RCMP then made a fateful assumption.
That they believed Wortman was dead, that he had committed suicide and was in one of his buildings.
That assumption has been confirmed by an RCMP source who says at that point, some officers were even sent home. But then they learned about that fourth replica police car and something else they hadn't realized. Portapique had a back way out, a dirt road through a blueberry field.
Yeah. You think that's how he got out?
It's how he got out. I know it's how he got out. They assumed he killed himself. Well, that's good for them to assume that. But if he didn't do that, he drove out this road. It's the only way out of here. Everybody in the community knows it, that it's here.
But Leon Jodry says that night police didn't ask.
What would you have told them?
They went out this road. It's just unbelievable it happened. That they assumed and then didn't know until he picked up killing. He could have been in a plane in another country if he would have played his cards right.
Instead, he moved freely for 13 hours, overnighting, as police would later learn, in an industrial park, before hitting the road again.
It's like, I grew up in this community. There's very few ways in and out. They could have blocked the roads in so many places that they didn't. No roadblocks. I don't understand that either. You could have blocked off the highway to Wentworth and Glen home, and he never would have made it to Wentworth. So they had an opportunity to stop him before the people who died on the 19th were killed.
They should have had cars in pretty much every area that they could. Local dispatches like Truro Police should have been notified, and they weren't, and he drove through Truro.
Truro's police chief didn't learn that until a week later.
I can tell you that, this didn't happen in our jurisdiction. However, we are the neighboring police agency, and obviously community safety is our number one focus as well as officer safety. So any information that we would have obtained would have been helpful.
On Sunday morning, Truro Police called in extra officers and was offering help. But Truro was stood down by the RCMP, as was the next closest municipal force. Instead, the RCMP turned to its own for reinforcements in Halifax and Moncton, both an hour and a half away. With so many out-of-town officers converging near Portapique, communication was a challenge, one that almost turned deadly in the nearby community of Onslow. Having realized Wortman had escaped Portapique, on Sunday morning, the RCMP sent a bulletin to all police services to be on the lookout for the fake cruiser. At Onslow's volunteer fire hall, an officer was standing guard in his cruiser when another RCMP car drove by. Minutes later, there was gunfire.
I heard the shots. I was in this front room right here. Somebody come running through the front door yelling, take cover, get down, or shots fired.
Both front doors opened. They ran. One ran into the ditch and one ran behind the garbage bin.
Across the street, Sharon McClellan was on the phone with her sister and watched as officers in the passing cruiser jumped out and opened fire.
And they started shooting. And I started freaking because I thought the shooter was there.
But the shooter wasn't there.
I had no idea what was going on. The station cop that was there started putting his hands up pretty much to tell them, it's me, don't shoot. I have no idea what kind of weapons they were, but there was more than 32 holes in that fire hall. And it was total chaos, total chaos.
Keystone Cops comes to mind, but just a complete and utter failure. Just lucky that those firefighters weren't shot and killed, with shots going through the wall.
Poor communication, to say the least, but nothing compared to how the RCMP was conveying critical information to the public. When we come back.
Whoever it was who made the call not to set out an alert, there is blame there, and it would have saved my mother's life. I believe that wholeheartedly.
Times have changed since you last bought a truck.
Interesting stuff. Yes, there's a lot of things that have come out recently in the news. Lots of stuff. So I think you can expect a lot more too. A lot more, but they're going to be pushing a certain story, I think. I'm still waiting to hear, you know, there's pieces missing here and things that are being said that I think most people in the Discord group know is probably not exactly truthful. So anyway, but we can go over some of the things to do with guns and things like that later. It's a very, very tragic situation, and frankly, you know, the truth has to be told by somebody. I just hope that somebody steps up and does the right thing. But there's a lot of people, and responsibility is a big thing I've kind of railed on about. So indigent artsy. Okay. Green bastard. The elusive green bastard. Blueberry and oats. Poor communication. These people are criminals. Absolutely. They're not telling the truth. So the rest of us would get charged with perjury if this were true, but they don't seem to have any qualms about lying. But of course, that's not part of their mandate to tell the truth to the public, to Parliament. Only in a court of law is in their code of conduct. But even then, they lie. Was that the case up in Truro of the woman? She did say what kind of car it was. She thought it was a Hyundai, not nondescript. So I will play the little interview that we did with Sharon after this is done for anybody who wants to hang around, and we can talk about some other things too. And we'll do a follow-up with Sharon and hopefully Leon so that we can hear about what their impressions were of the interview. I think that's really important because you can always cherry pick what you want, and media does do that. I mean, that's just a fact. So where's everybody coming from? And I think Paul said it succinctly the other day on Rick Howe's show that he's being censored big time. Oh, that's not so good. I was getting nerfed there for a second.
No one asks what I want to be anymore, but I'm still choosing to be me.
In times of emergency, information can save lives. On that terrible April weekend when 22 innocent Nova Scotians lost their lives, the RCMP did not issue a province-wide emergency alert. Instead, it communicated with the public on social media.
They shared everything over Twitter, which is an absolute piss off to me and anyone I have a conversation with.
Are you on Twitter?
I don't know anyone that's Ryan Reynolds is the only one I know on Twitter. Like, nobody I know uses Twitter.
In 13 hours, the RCMP tweeted 10 times, relying, it later said, on local media to rebroadcast the tweets. Anyone who did see them would have assumed they were the latest and most complete information the RCMP had. But that wasn't always the case. Remember what the RCMP said about how and when it learned critical details about the gunman.
It was at that time that through that significant key witness, we confirmed more details about Gabriel Wardman. This included the fact that he was in possession of a fully marked and equipped replica RCMP vehicle and was wearing a police uniform.
The RCMP said that information came from Wortman's partner, who didn't emerge from hiding until early Sunday morning.
Prior to that time, we did not have all those details. The bulk of the details about our suspect came to us at that time.
But we've learned the RCMP did have the very same details at least 8 hours earlier from the very first witness it encountered in Portapique. That man has never been identified publicly. He was driving his car when workmen shot and injured him. He wouldn't speak to us, but at 10:30 Saturday night, he did speak to an RCMP officer on the scene.
I saw Gabe, I saw him, and I saw his gun. He had a laser sight on the gun.
In this audio tape obtained by the Fifth Estate, he explains to a private investigator what he told the officer.
I think I literally said 90% sure it's my neighbor Gabe, and he had an RCMP officer, or RCMP car. I knew he had those cars, but I'd never seen them badged.
The badges, he said, made it look exactly like a real police cruiser.
It was a replica RCMP car. He right away grabbed his radio and radioed exactly what I told him. But he did radio that right away to somebody.
3170
The RCMP must have believed the man because internal police bulletins show that by 1 a.m. it had identified Wortman as a suspect, linking him to an old white police car. 7 hours later, an update called it a fully marked police car and gave the number. Crucially, it also warned police that Wortman could be anywhere in the province. But that's not what the RCMP was telling the public. At almost the exact same time as that internal bulletin, it put out another tweet advising that its active shooter investigation was continuing, the danger still confined to Portapique. 50 minutes after that, another tweet did identify Wortman, but made no mention of him being anywhere or any of the information we now know the RCMP received the night before.
I've gone over and over and over again. They didn't release that he was dressed as an officer or in a marked cruiser. If the RCMP had have armed us with the information of who he was and what they knew by 11 o'clock Saturday night, she wouldn't even been on the road. She wouldn't have left the house. You know, me and many other Blue Nosers and Nova Scotians were sitting on the front deck with their firearms, protecting their family. And she'd have been behind me. She'd have been safe.
For Heather O'Brien, too, the information would come too late.
Would have been after Mom was killed that they posted that he was in the Glenholm area. It was after she was killed that they posted he was in an RCMP car. It was after. It was all after.
And that's information the RCMP had known
for hours.
Since the night before.
Yep.
O'Brien and Beaton were killed just after 10 Sunday morning. At 17 minutes past 10, the RCMP finally shared those critical details their families are convinced could have saved the women and others too.
And that was the first time it was shared with the public.
Mm-hmm.
Was it 10:17 that morning?
Yes.
Would that have made a difference if that
Certainly,
information had been known to your mom, do you think?
I think it would have made a difference for my mother. I think it would have made a difference for Lillian Hislop and Kristen Beaton, Joey Weber,
because why?
Gina Goulet. They failed to give the public the information they needed to stay safe. They failed at that.
Heather O'Brien was mother to 8, grandmother to 12.
My mother was kind. I think that is the easiest word to describe her, is she would do anything for anybody. She would give you the shirt off her back. So she was spiritual. She was very in tune. She was amazing. She really was. She natural born healer, that one. She wanted to save the world, so.
It's almost like she knew she had to put a whole life's loving into 3 years. Life was perfect. It was perfect in every way. We just found out she was pregnant with our second child that we were trying for. And we were so excited, and the stars were just lining up for us. You know, we lived payday to payday, but that didn't matter to us. You know, we had each other and a healthy boy and another one on the way.
The world has changed a lot since you last bought a car. Get a new 2024.
Tragic. Thank you for joining, Loretta, GTO, gosh, everybody riding the pines. Anne, hello. Yeah, no, I know, brother. This is really, but this is what we're, you know, trying to get the truth for, so it never happens again, and that these people can get justice. It's really, yeah.
Listen. Listen to your mom. To your dad.
Well, we all need to be here as much as possible.
Listen to the good stuff. To the hard stuff. But just listen.
Tweet machines. Yes, I noticed how they haven't spoken of the hour delay at the beginning there, where they knew right away and then just remained silent all night. Wow. But we had a cat rolling around. Many more people, you know, that was kind of what I was going with, was for sure at the beginning, it could be as soon as he got out, basically everything else is on their hands. No, many more people that could have been saved. I know I had the thought that possibly that could have happened. I'm now feeling fairly certain that more people could have been saved that night. But oh no, we're all taking it on. Thank you to everybody. Gosh, you guys are so great. So great. And I know, you know, Tara and other family members that I speak to are so appreciative. They really, truly are. They really, really are, because they know that you're a part of this. That's you. You know, it requires a lot of people to work against a machine like this. But we're smart, we're strong, we have perseverance, we don't give up. All the information that comes out of you guys is absolutely amazing. Amazing.
Life goes by so fast. It's tough to know where you're
So I was so glad to hear Paul give a shout out to everybody on the Discord. It was really, really made me happy.
So the government wants me to pay with gift cards? It's a scam, Margaret. Who's that?
Oh, bollocks. Nicholas, how's it going? Thank you, Sister C. Appreciate the share. I don't know why. Lots of ads. They really don't want to buy your garbage. I just want truth.
In the aftermath of the tragedy, Nova Scotia stood strong, embracing the families of the 22 who were killed. But when those families started asking hard questions, the government of Nova Scotia and the police force it employs went quiet.
The RCMP really didn't tell me jack shit. I know just as much now as I did back in April or May.
What do you make of that?
I don't even know. It's it's disgraceful. I think we shouldn't have to fight and beg for answers. That's the way I look at it.
But they did have to fight, and because they did, there will now be a public inquiry, though findings will take at least 2 years. Every family still has its questions. Why the RCMP apparently made that fateful early assumption that Wortman was dead.
I asked that question in my interview. They couldn't answer it. They were going to look into it and get back to me. I haven't heard nothing yet. It's been months.
So when you don't have answers, your mind creates questions.
Heather O'Brien's family wants a straight answer as to how she died. The RCMP insists Wortman's impersonation of an officer played no role in her death or any.
The gunman did not use the RCMP replica vehicle to pull over any of the victims who were in their vehicles at the time.
We know that at least 3 of the victims were either stopped because they saw an RCMP car and felt safe, stopped because they thought they had a duty to stop because it was an RCMP car, or actively stopped to help the RCMP in apparent distress. To say that the vehicle and or uniform didn't play a role in those, I think, is deliberately misleading.
O'Brien's family says they were also misled about how she was shot, across the road and at a distance, the RCMP told them. Then they got her car back.
We know that his hand and gun were inside of her vehicle.
How do you know that?
Because my father has shell casings from his gun that were never cleaned out of the car. So we got the car back with a lot of evidence in it.
What was in it?
There were still pieces of her inside that vehicle when we got it back.
The families are now suing the RCMP and the province of Nova Scotia for negligence.
We just want answers. We want the truth, full transparency. We want the RCMP to say, we messed up. We made mistakes here, here, and here. We're learning from it, and it's not going to happen again. They should already be reviewing what they did wrong. And have they?
The RCMP won't answer that or any questions because it says it's still investigating how Gabriel Wortman got his illegal weapons and who might have helped him. Relevant questions to be sure, but not the only or most important ones for the 22 families now struggling to move on.
So, Mia, if you could join your mother down in front of the screen. We have a tribute to you, Mia, and your father, Sean, and Alana. So we'd like to have you join us down in front of the screen, please.
In June, Amelia McLeod graduated from high school without her dad.
It was hard, a really emotional day.
But in your mind, what did you think that day was going to be like had your dad been there?
I knew it would have been a lot happier day. I knew he would have been there. He would have been so proud. They both would have been.
What do you think your mom would think of all of this now?
I have often said this. If it was myself or one of my sisters, my brother, my dad, she would have done everything I have done and more. She wouldn't have settled for anything less than the truth. She would have demanded it. She'd have been worse than me. Everybody says, you know, I'm out there and I'm loud. They would have been scared if she walked towards that RCMP station because she wouldn't have taken no for an answer on anything. So, yeah.
You run your dad's business now?
Yeah, which was always our plan, but wasn't supposed to happen this quick and this way.
And you are now taking care of your brothers?
Yep.
And how old are you, Tyler?
27.
All of this on your shoulders at 27?
Yep. Doing what I should do, what my father would have wanted me to do.
I can lay here and bawl the rest of my life, which I know Kristen wouldn't want, or fight, because I'm not sitting back. I tried to sit back so I could heal, so I could deal with it, and I can't. I need answers. I said, no more. No more. I'm ready to fight.
If you have a story you think needs to be told, send us your tips to fifthtips@cbc.ca for a more confidential way to contact.
Visit our website at cbc.ca/fifth and click on Secure Drop.
Yeah, lots of stuff. And there's been a lot of stuff in the news. So I appreciate you all joining me very much. We could do it this way. I'm just trying to think of how to do Sharon's pre-Fifth Estate, which I didn't get done in time. I'm sorry, and I was running behind. Let's see, where did that go? What did you all think? It's definitely going to pull some eyes, but there are details in there that are missing. For what reason they keep doing this? I think some of us have an idea. Now, where did that go? Okay, here we go. Now, hopefully this turned out not too badly. So we're joined tonight by Sharon, our good friend over at the Onslow Fire Hall, and Adrian's back in the house, and we also have Steve, just for a little update, pre-Fifth Estate special. And just hear Sharon's thoughts on how she felt it went. How's everybody tonight?
Great here.
Yeah, things aren't too bad over on this end. Hanging in there as best we can.
Great, great. And how are you tonight, Sharon?
I'm great. Let's go over first and foremost what questions were asked to Sharon and what we can expect from tonight.
Well, they asked me a lot of questions, actually. A lot more than what was on the little blurb there on CBC. They asked me exactly what I saw, roughly what time it was.
Sorry, is the audio pretty bad? If it is, I can just remix the audio and upload it. Hearing Ozzy saying the sound is pretty low. Again, that was this interview with Sharon was done beforehand, because I just kind of wanted to get a picture for what all was asked. I was hoping to do with Leon too, but I didn't. Okay, so maybe what I'll do is I know Adrian comes across very quietly in this interview, so maybe what I can try and do is remix the sound. But Adrian does come across very quietly. Is Steve okay in it? Not a very good job of covering up anything. There's my assessment would be that there's yes, Todd. They're covering up very big things down there, and it's not the incompetence that they want to keep farming off on people. Was there incompetence there that night? Absolutely. And next day? Yes. Was there something underneath it that had been running for some time? More than likely. Let's say high likelihood. I've heard it from a few sources. So the RCMP have a lot of questions to answer. And the pressure that people have put on has really, really turned it up a notch. And if we're hoping for truth through this inquiry and such, we're not going to get it. So it's going to have to be. I know they were trying. Yeah, I know they're trying. Yes, very sad. Very sad. Michael Penny, how's it going, sir? Okay, so what I'll do is I'll try and remix that and put it up for later, and then we can do that. But I don't want to keep you. Lots of things to digest there. There's been a lot over the last few days. You know, I'll still go with the where's an envelope around here? I always have lots of things, you know. Karnak moment. You're going to see a lot of stuff coming out, and they're all going to be kind of along the same lines. There's 2 images that they want to push. Oh, 3, sorry. Incompetence. Lisa Banfield's story, and one other item, but we won't get into that one. All right. Didn't learn a damn thing. Everything we already knew. Oh, there she is. Well, apparently the interview didn't work out so well. Gonna have to have another one. Well, we were going to do another one anyways. But she's got COVID, so you got to stay away from her. You hate to say it. That was terrible. Nova Scotia guy, very good part of the team. So, yeah. Wow. And just the number of articles, the timelines coming together a bit better. And then I think if we can overlay it on a map and we've got all the different things going on, never going to add up. Never going to add up. We're going to have a lot of problems. I liked how Tyler spoke his piece, said that, you know, the composure of the families is unbelievably amazing to me. How they're able to keep their composure. I sit up here and rant and rave, and I can't have a clean mouth at times. Nobody's probably ever seen that, and be calm. But there's no way in that situation I could be. And I frankly, to see the number of them that are calm through all this is quite amazing. Paul Blango's article is supposedly coming in Maclean's tomorrow. I don't think I got an email about that, but who knows? Maybe I didn't. Let's see here. Okay, somebody's sending me some stuff. Oh, okay. I don't see anything. So that isn't to say anything. Isn't to say anything at all. I just haven't heard anything from Paul. So possibly Maclean's tomorrow, there'll be an article. I don't know. Anyways, I do hope that you're all doing well. Please take good care. Keep up this fight. Keep it up. These families need as much support as they can get. And oh, all right. Nova Scotia guy said that it's on the Discord. Okay, my apologies. Well, there you go. He knows. All right, take care, and I'll try and upload that video as soon as possible. God bless.